6.
Okay.
We'll go this.
Here we go.
228.
228.
I've worked with a few people on every movie. There's sort of the inner ring, the outer ring, and they kind of, it expands out. And it's like an ensemble piece, and it's not just an ensemble for your actors. It's an ensemble piece for your crew.
Action. I just want to make it work, Maureen. I just want to know everything so I can make it work.
There might be 150 people, but really your core people, it's like 12 people you've worked with and you've developed relationships with, and you have a shorthand. Craig Wood, who's my editor, who I've used on all of my movies, I may mix up these other areas, but Craig's a constant, and he's a constant because he's really a storyteller.
We're both storytellers, I think, and I guess he likes how I complement his ability to tell stories. You know, the aspect that I focus on is often a more technical aspect of the storytelling. You know, does this make sense? This doesn't make sense because we don't understand this emotional thing here. You know, I think I can usually pinpoint the problem, and it's not always in the scene that it seems to be in. You know, it'll be a cumulative thing, and he likes my ability of bouncing back those ideas.
We've developed a shorthand. He can look at my dailies and go, oh, he wanted to do it this way. Immediately. He doesn't have to read script notes. He can look at the footage and decipher intention, which I think is really helpful. And then it's also when we have problems, he's a great sounding board.
We have grown to have very similar taste over the 12 or 13 years that we've been working together. We don't always have the same taste. There'll be times where he'll go, no, I really wanted to use that take, but most of the time I will have chosen the same take that he would have.
Cutting the movie is like writing the movie. It's where you thought you needed a page of description or dialogue or exposition, and you cut the movie together and go, no, it's right there on the face. You know, that's the thing you can't write. You know, or it's this piece of music against that shot that conveys this, and we can lose all this other stuff. Those things you don't always see on the page.
I think sometimes scripts are word heavy because you're reading them on the page, and that's all you've got to communicate the idea is dialogue. So they become a little bit dialogue heavy, and some of that just has to be trimmed in the editorial process. Often you'll truncate a scene, you'll finish it sooner than it was written to be because that information is implicit just in the performance of the actors. On Weatherman, both Gore and I went into it wanting to hold on shots a lot more than we usually do. Didn't want to make it a very cutty film at all. Wanted to let performance play for the camera. So we often just sit on a two-shot of the characters just talking to each other, much more than we normally do. There was one scene where Dave Spritz's character is interviewed for his job in New York, and the coverage on the scene was, you know, allowed for a standard cut version of the scene. And I cut that version and I said to Gore, it feels a bit ordinary, and he suggested just staying on Nick. And I tried that and it worked so well. There's a special effect halfway through the shot to make it a continuous shot with one line removed. Other than that, it's as it was shot, at just a single shot of Nick. And I think it says more, it's funnier, and it's just a better piece of filmmaking.
Cinematographers, I like to change because of my relationships with the DP, because of their strengths, that I think we can collaborate uniquely in certain circumstances. And in the case of Faden, he really is a filmmaker. He's really a director more than a cinematographer in a way.
Of course, you think about a picture, and when you read the script, you know, you see it. I mean, when I read a script, I'm kind of watching the whole movie. That's why I'm kind of a slow reader, because I literally, I'm watching the film, on screen. But I have an approach where I like to go in a little bit unprepared and sort of, like I said, see the performances, see what the set is like, what is a natural light situation that moment when we're about to do it. And, you know, I wouldn't really consider myself like a technical cameraman. I don't really like to preconceive the look of a picture too much. I sort of respond more instinctive and intuitive, and when we show up the day of a shoot, we come in with a board. There's a board like on a commercial that has every single frame that we're going to do that day. It's very specific, you know, screen directions, like it's completely broken down. And the execution of the shoot on the day is actually a much more sort of mechanical, very efficient, you know, like his whole crew and his whole team is a very, you know, precise machine. And we actually set up the shot, rehearse it, prepare it, light it. The actor, in this case Nicolas Cage, would come, basically enter the shot, and we'd execute it immediately without a rehearsal. I mean, it's a very precise process in that way. But you know, the road to that final stage is very creative. But you know, I think that's why when you see a Gore Verbinski picture, you have that sort of consistency and that, you know, level of craftsmanship that is really very high.
You know, it's going exactly according to plan. The vision is intact. Don't worry.
Todd and I have become great friends in making this movie. And Todd was the person who sent me the script. And I'm very thankful for him. And he was there every day fighting for the film. And that term, producer, gets abused and thrown around these days. We have producers, executive producers, co-producers, associate producers. Nobody knows what it means anymore. And Todd is a producer. He does what a producer should do. And, you know, he orchestrates talent, works on the development, is there looking at dailies every day. He's, you know, as a director, he's protecting you from kind of all this BS that distracts you from doing your job. And he's just a great collaborator.
Well, Gore has an amazing talent that a number of directors don't have. Gore is great with story. He knew exactly where to go in and say, okay, if I'm the audience and I'm watching the movie and we're at this scene at 7:30 in the evening, because the movie started at 7, I want to be feeling this. I want to be feeling this at 7:40. I want to be feeling this at 7:50. And I've never worked with a director that is so aware of an audience and of entertaining an audience throughout the directing of the movie. He's put the movie together in his head while he's shooting it. It's almost as though he's the editor while he's the director. And it's a great, great gift as a producer to work with a director like that.
All the choices of this movie for me were people who understood storytelling. Penny Rose, who did costume, was, you know, especially in a character piece, there's nothing else to distract you. You're really looking at the actor, you're looking at the clothes they're wearing. You're, you know, finding Dave's suit was really important, finding those ties, you know, making it not quite fit, you know, in a movie about a character who's not that comfortable with himself. And then at the end of the movie, you know, just slightly tweaking it so it just sits better. His collar feels better.
That was totally down to Nick and I. And then by the time he starts to be a bit more successful, he looks a bit better. Taking
Michael Caine and giving him a wider collar, you know, throughout the movie and making him feel like he's shrinking a little bit and getting thinner. Very small things just to make him feel like he's kind of fading away. This great man who's just, you know, in decay.
We just gave him bigger size shirts and, you know, let the suits out a bit. But we didn't make a big deal of it. He acted it, actually.
Shelley dresses in clothing not appropriate for her. Clinging stuff.
All kids wear... Dad, it's a different generation.
They call her camel toe.
What?
Are you aware of that?
What?
That her colleagues call her camel toe.
What are you talking about?
It means the crease in her vagina that they can discern through her clothing.
What?
You know, she's an 11-year-old kid who has absolutely no idea of her own body shape or language. And we had to turn her from a kind of schleppy kid into a kid that looked nice. She was quite shy, Jermaine, and yeah, I mean, I think it worked out fine. And Nicolas Cage was hugely helpful with her when we were shooting it, encouraging her. And I think in the end, she quite liked looking like a kind of yuppie little girl.
You like it?
I like it, yeah. Do you like it?
Yeah, I think I do.
Do you feel comfortable in it? Because, you know, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's comfy.
I just wanted to make her look a lot more sophisticated and elegant. And I used to say to her, you know, if you were having lunch with your grandma, which of course in England would mean you would really dress up. Nobody here dresses up, so it was kind of, what was I talking about? So I did it as if she was a British kid going to lunch with her granny.
Hans Zimmer did the score, and he kind of did it as a favor.
Somebody had said, would I please go and talk to God? You know, I know a lot of young composers. And we just started having this chat, and You know, supposed to last for 20 minutes, and 3 hours later, we're like, got great ideas for the movie, you know, so he said, well, why don't you just do it? So I thought, who got me into this other than Gore, so he shall suffer for this. So I wrote it for Gore playing funky guitar, my friend Heitor Pereira, who is actually an amazing guitarist who had to go and play bass, Jimmy Levine, who is one of the great sort of gospel organ players, he got to play a real Fender Rhodes, and my friend Rylan Allison playing drums, and we just set up in my room. We didn't go to a studio, we just set up in the room, and we would just project the picture up against the wall, and I really carefully mapped everything out, and everything was really written, and then I would just at night, we'd do this at night and, you know, into the early hours of the morning, we just sit there and play up against it. So even though the whole thing feels like it's improvised, it's actually really tightly scored.
I had sent him some bits of music of different things I had liked, and I was feeling this, for winter I was almost feeling this kind of reggae vibe that really isn't something you think about when you think about winter, but it kind of had a nice cross current. And I you know, was really thinking about Fender Rhodes, just in isolation, and I called Hans and I gave him those two thoughts, and that was it.
Neither of which overtly have anything to do with people in Chicago and what the story is. But I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it? I mean, the music is supposed to do what you can't elegantly say in words or show in pictures. I mean, we are that other thing, you know. And I just wrote this long stream of consciousness thing, you know, stream of consciousness, but being German and a perfectionist, it was all like, you know, I had thought about every note during my stream of consciousness. And it became a sort of the template for the whole thing, you know, and I sent it to him to Chicago, I think before he started shooting.
He sent me like a 7-minute piece of music, which is really the basis for the entire score.
I got this terrible habit of always saying to the director, I don't want to read the script, tell me the story, because then I know what's in his head, you know, where we're going with this thing. I kept saying to Gore, send me photos. So he sent me like a photo of a clock on the hospital wall, you know, stuff like that. You know, I'd go, oh, I know how to write that. You know, show me what colors you guys are going to be in. What's the lighting going to be like in this movie? Oh, I know how to make that sound. I know how to be complementary to this style.
There we go. Anything else? No?
Every composer has 12 notes. Everybody has 12 notes. Those are the 12 notes that exist on the keyboard. If you know what the movie is about, you find the right combination of those, and it's only those that will work for this image. And you can't justify it. There's no science that justifies it. It's just that how you feel it in your gut. You know, and they're hard-earned. I mean, I remember, you know, sitting there for a while trying to write those, and trying to find those notes that would go with that photo of the clock on the hospital wall. There are many ways to collaborate, I suppose. You can collaborate by talking about things, or you can collaborate by, you know, here is my work, here's the piece of music, you know. Now let's see how it informs and influences, you know, the rest of your process.
You know, finding that, I think, and having that collaboration with a composer is really essential.
It's sort of personally important that I get to work with Gore on stuff like this. You know, which I just think it's important movie making. There's a lightness about the way he does things. You know, you can't quite catch him at being profound. You know, but he is. You know, and It's great.